As most of you know, in the past I've done presentations in November, especially during the 100th anniversary of the Great War, on not only the contributions of the Beaches Lodge and its members in the community during that war, but also the contributions of men who were fighting in that war on the front. Tonight, I kind of did a bit of a blend. Tonight, this is called World War I and Good Men. Many of us in this room may not be aware of the impact that Freemasons had during World War I, or that the war had on them. From those Canadians mentioned these past few years fighting in the trenches to our civic leaders at home, such as Brother Sir Robert Borden, Canada's Prime Minister, whose government 100 years ago introduced not only income tax and conscription, but also prohibition a year after winning the 1917 election. And Ontario's Premier, Brother Sir William Hearst, as well as our Lieutenant Governor, Brother Sir John Hendry. Brother Sir Sam Hughes served as the Canadian Minister of Militia, and on February 24th, 1917, 100 years ago, according to their minutes online, the regular meeting of St. Andrew's Lodge in Toronto was held as a military night. The officers in the chairs, being military men, Worshipful Brother General Sam Hughes was elected an honorary member. A Grand Master's Night was then held on October 9th. And the following toast to the boys on active service, Hughes replied that the discipline of the boys who had been in the Masonic Order had been of great benefit in their training as officers. Also found recorded in their minutes from 1917 are these facts. On November 17th, the cornerstone of the Masonic Temple, Yonge and Davenport, was laid, whereby the gavel used during the ceremony was used by the Worshipful Master of Union Lodge in England, when York's own founder, Governor Simcoe, was initiated. And the chair, as we all know, had been fashioned from wood purchased by Most Worshipful Brother John Ross Robertson at the demolition of the Goose and Gridiron Tavern in London. And December 11th, 1917, was the last meeting of the Lodge held in the Temple building, located at the corner of Bay and Richmond Streets, which, at 12 stories, was once the tallest building in the city. Today, a portion of the building's facade can be found at Guild Park in Scarborough. According to research conducted by our own Worshipful Brother Curry, presented in his paper, The Rifle and the Apron, a new lodge was established at Le Havre, France, during the war. At its consecration on October 31st, 1916, the chaplain stated, "Surrounded as we are with an atmosphere charged with so much disruption, disunion, and discord, with lowering clouds of hate and strife, through which at present there appears to be but faint light penetrating, a light which we hope is indicative of the future blaze of joy and happiness, we launched this ship of peace and harmony." At least 6 Canadians who were Masons, or who became Masons on their return home, were awarded the Victoria Cross for their bravery under fire during the war. This year, our own Grand Master was in London and had occasion to visit Freemasons Hall. This building was completed in 1933 and was initially named the Masonic Peace Memorial, honoring the 3,500 Masons who fell in the Great War. We've heard of the battles from Ypres, where in 1915 the Germans first attacked with poison gas, and yet the 1st Canadian Infantry Division held the line, and where the Brooding Soldier Memorial stands nowadays. Near the nighttime attack on Kitchener's Wood, held by the 10th Battalion and the 16th Scottish Battalion, as well as Frenzenberg Ridge, where the Princess Patricius held the line, to Vimy Ridge. Canadians at home and abroad served with distinction throughout the war. Prior to the taking of Passchendaele a century ago, Canada's own tunneling companies had their critical contributions at St. Eloi, and the crater is now associated with Tyne Cot, or Tyne Cottage, the largest Commonwealth War cemetery in the world, and the final resting place of over 12,000 soldiers, located nearby Essex Farm, the site where John McCrae's poem In Flanders Field was inspired, and other relevant sites, including Menin Gate, upon which are inscribed 7,000 Canadian names, including 3 Canadian Victoria Cross winners, and the names of 39 brethren. Along the Somme, many Masons fought and fell, and are remembered today at the Thiepval Memorial to the Missing, where another 102 names of brethren are recorded, including brothers Eyre, Mellor, and Winter, all from Newfoundland, who were killed on that first horrific day of fighting on July 1st, 1916, at what is now the Newfoundland Memorial Park, following their devastation at Beaumont Hamel. The months at the Somme cost Canada alone over 24,000 casualties, but it was here the Canadians confirmed their reputation as hard-hitting troops. The Canadians, wrote British Prime Minister Lloyd George, played a part of such distinction that thenceforward they were marked out as stormtroops. For the remainder of the war, they were brought along to head the assault in one great battle after another. Whenever the Germans found the Canadian Corps coming into the line, they prepared for the worst. In April 1917 at Vimy Ridge, Canadians were still serving under the famous British general and also a Mason, Julian Byng. Though our 4 divisions were unified as the Canadian Corps and soon commanded by Brother General Sir Arthur Currie, before being ordered to relieve the Australians and take Passchendaele. The Germans eventually recaptured Passchendaele, but by August 8, 1918, which is now known as the Black Day for the German Army, it was at the Battle of Amiens where Canada bluffed the Germans, signaling the beginning of the end along the Western Front. Bringing it home, a story recently hit the headlines that a statue would finally be erected in Uxbridge, honoring a lawyer and a decorated soldier, Sam Sharp, Brother Sam Sharp, who in 1917 was re-elected to his seat in Borden's government while serving overseas, the only politician to ever do so. So well liked and so well respected at home he was. At the outset of the war, he lobbied his friend, Sam Hughes, to personally recruit a battalion from Uxbridge, and he did, and he commanded them. The 116th fought bravely at Vimy, Amiens, and Passchendaele. But of the over 1,100 soldiers to fight, barely only 150 returned. Quote, "It is awful to contemplate the misery and suffering in this old world," Sharp wrote from the front, "and were I to allow myself to ponder over what I have seen and what I have suffered through the loss of the bravest and the best in the world, I would soon become absolutely incapable of carrying on." In early 1918, Lieutenant Colonel Sharp could no longer carry on. He was hospitalized, and by May, his war was over. He returned to Canada and was treated for nervous shock in Montreal, what we now know as PTSD. Given all his sacrifice, unable to cope, he leapt to his death. After writing, he could not bear the thought of facing the families of the fallen, lest we forget. Thank you.